Welcome to the stage, Treasurer of the United States, Chief Lynn Malerba.
Cha Ianawak, Natiwi Sungsquabatai, Mutahash, Wachi Mohikanawak. Greetings, everyone. My name is Chief Many Hearts Lynn Malerba from the Mohegan Tribe. Katapton Tamawish, thank you to Chairman Watchman and the Board of Directors, President CEO James, and all of the staff at the National Center for the American Indian Enterprise Development for allowing me to speak today. It is my honor to join you all. I greet all the leaders in the tribal room today with all of my best wishes, all of the tribal employees who work so hard on behalf of our communities, and all of the people who partner with us to make our economic dreams become a reality. As tribal nations, we are acutely aware of the need to ensure robust economic development for our tribal communities. We do not tax our citizens for the services our government provides. We provide our services through the revenues gained through our tribal enterprises. As tribal governments, we have not only the traditional governmental services such as courts, roads, healthcare, elder services, education, childcare, public safety, but we also have the added responsibility to keep faith with our ancestors, to ensure that our tribal culture, our native languages, our sacred sites, our natural foodways, as you just heard, and all of our ways of medicine are protected, and they thrive, and they provide them to the next generations. These important tribal government functions allow our tribal communities to continue to celebrate who we are as a people. Our businesses exist for communal good, not for personal wealth. This is in keeping with the theme of this conference, Empowering Generations. We are all here because of the resilience and fortitude of our ancestors, and it is now our solemn responsibility to ensure that the next generations thrive in perpetuity. For that to happen, we must rebuild our Native nations through our economic development. History was made when the CARES Act and the American Recovery Plan was passed. Prior to those two pieces of legislation, the Department of Treasury had not typically provided direct funding or programs to tribal nations. This was a historic investment of $30 billion, the most funds appropriated to tribes in such a short period of time. Congress recognized it. That is something to be happy to clap about. Thank you. We know that there's much more that is needed, and we're going to continue to work on that. Congress recognized the severe impacts of COVID on already strained tribal government budgets and the devastation that our tribal citizens faced during this epidemic. History was made again when Secretary Yellen visited the Rosebud Sioux Nation and met with the Great Plains Tribal Chiefs Association to understand how that funding was making transformational changes in their communities, but also to ask what are the barriers that they're experiencing to economic development. The Biden-Harris administration made a commitment to ensure that their political appointees reflect the nation's diversity. And as part of that commitment, I was appointed the first Indigenous United States Treasurer. Thank you. I said yes for all of this, for all of us, for all of our tribal nations, and I hope that I will serve you honorably in my time here. And thank you. An equally important commitment was to establish the Office of Tribal and Native Affairs at the Treasury Department. Once again, history was made. Tribes have been advocating for this office for many years, in recognition that each agency has a trust and treaty obligation to our Native nations. Treasury ensured that this office was a priority for this administration. I am pleased to say that our leadership, Secretary Yellen and Deputy Secretary Adiyamo, has fully funded this office, and that's something to definitely be excited about. Fatima Abbas is joining me today. She is making history as the first director of the Office of Tribal and Native Affairs and will be setting up the structure for this office. Joining her is our colleague, James Colomb, who is also working with our office to make sure that this is an office that will work on behalf of our tribal nations. And so what's important to note is that while I'm a political appointee, all of the employees of this office will be career staff, meaning that their work will continue regardless of who is holding the office in the highest office of this land. Rounding out our staff are Josh Jackson and Jen Parisian, who have just done amazing work on all of the ARPA funds and all of the CARES Act funds. I am so proud of the work that this tribal team has done and the myriad ways they've conducted research to our tribal nations. And I thank Fatima for her leadership and our team for their hard work. Their outreach and deployment of all tribal programs has made a difference in our tribal communities. Just last year, they had 300 different engagement with our tribal nations. That's amazing. So once again, history was made when Champions for Change Youth, recognized by the Center for the Native American Youth, held a talking circle in Treasury with Deputy Secretary Adiyamo. And that was to celebrate the second anniversary of the American Rescue Plan Act. His was the first time that tribal youth had been invited to Treasury to share their perspectives on their communities and how Treasury could engage with them to achieve their goals. History was again made when our Deputy Secretary Adiyamo conducted his first visit to tribal lands this month to visit Agua Caliente tribe and the Torres Martinez tribe in Palm Springs. We plan to visit tribal communities throughout the United States to ensure that our Treasury colleagues can see the rich diversity of Indian country, but also to understand how United States domestic policy can better assist Indian country in providing for a better future for our tribal citizens. We, the Treasury team, are excited to join you all today and share some of these exciting events with you. There is much work to be done in Indian country, much work to ensure that the trust and treaty obligations are upheld by the United States, much work to ensure that the diplomatic relations occur regularly between tribal governments and our United States. But these important milestones ensure that we are working in a positive direction. There has been much energy around the whole of government approach across agencies to address Indian country and the need for good economic development. I'm encouraged by those conversations that are occurring and the work that is being done. Our tribal team has several goals that we will be working on in this next year. We will continue to engage deeply on policy issues impacting tribes with regard to tax policy, economic development, access and deployment of tax credits under the Inflation Reduction Act. I cannot stress enough the importance of having your voice heard during consultations. As we work to ensure that tribal voices are heard at Treasury, we use those comments that we receive, both during consultation and in writing, once consultation has occurred to inform policy. It is very powerful to share tribes' responses to policy and guidance questions. It helps us shape the work that Treasury does in a way that reflects what we are hearing from you. We completed consultation on the General Welfare Exclusion Act and the Dual Taxation Report and consultation on the Treasury's consultation policy. But consultation is only the beginning. The feedback loop is just as important. We are in the process of revising Treasury's consultation policy to standardize how we communicate consultation feedback to Indian country to inform federal policy. And we look forward to hearing your substantial feedback to shape guidance on the Tribal General Welfare Exclusion Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and to ensure tax certainty. With regard to tax, we have reinvigorated our Treasury Advisory Committee, and we're once again meeting in person, and we're on schedule to have 3 full meetings this year. Our subcommittees have been working all along and have made much progress on their goals. When they complete their charges, the full committee will determine the priorities for work. And lastly, as announced at the White House Tribal Nation Summit, we are working on an Access to Capital initiative. This project is a good example of the whole of government approach. Engaged in this effort are the Department of Commerce, the Department of Interior, the White House Council of Economic Development, the Small Business Association, the Office of Management and Budget, USDA, and Treasury. So I invite you to come to our roundtable at 2 o'clock, the Access to Capital panel. And I'd like to let you know that Wednesday from 9 to 9:15, SSBI Loan Participation Program will have a roundtable discussion. And at Wednesday from 10 to 10:50, Treasury Tribal Economic Development updates will occur. I look forward to working with you all, and I say many blessings upon you all. Thank you for all of your hard work on behalf of our tribal nations.